This lesson is on percent of change. Percent of change is used a lot in the business world or just stores in general. So if you go to a store, there's a percent of change, either a markup or a discount, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But that's how stores determine how much they're going to charge for something. That way they can take care of overhead, utilities, rental space, but also things like paying their workers and just making a profit. So the percent of change is the ratio of the amount of increase or decrease to the original amount. We have a formula here that uses absolute value. Remember, these lines indicate absolute value. Absolute value is the distance from zero. So absolute value is always going to be a positive number. This is a proportion that you can use to find out the percent of change. And this is more of an equation or set up in an equation format that you can use to find percent of change. Personally, I like this first one best, but you can use either one. The easiest thing to do is to see this in action. So looking at example 1 here, we're trying to find the percent of change, and we need to round to the nearest percent. So the original is 53 minus the new is 61 divided by the original, and again, this is a percent, so it's going to be looking for a rate. So 53 minus 61, that's 8. 8 because it's absolute value. Over 53 equals R over 100. Cross multiply, that'll give you 800. I'll just use the space over here briefly. 800 equals 53 times R. Because you multiplied those two together. Divide both sides by 53. R will equal 15%. Now my calculator came up as 15.09. Remember, we're already multiplying by 100 here, so I don't need to convert this. 15% is the actual number. It actually comes up as 15.094, and it's a terminating decimal, but again, rounding to the nearest percent as the direction stated over here. So 15% is our percent of change. Looking at this second example, and because the original was lower than the new, this is going to be an increase. That's the best way to see it. It's a 15% increase. So if the original is lower than the new, it's an increase. If the original was higher than the new, then it's a decrease. Looking at the second example, original is 65, the new is 40, and the original is 65. Again, always putting the original in the denominator. Okay, 65 minus 40 is 25. Over 65 equals R over 100. Cross multiply, that's going to be 2,500 equals 65R. Divide both sides by 65. And R will equal 38.5%. It's 38.46, so I'll round that to 38.5%. And again, that's a decrease because the original was lower than the new. Or I'm sorry, the original was higher than the new. So that's a decrease in cost. The next section we're going to be talking about is discount and markup, and this relates to percent of change. Discount is the amount by which the regular price is reduced. You should be familiar with this going to the mall. Markup is the difference between the price paid by the merchant and the increased selling price. So even though they may have it, a shirt for instance, on the rack for $45, more than likely the company didn't pay $45 to purchase the shirt. In fact, they may have only spent a fraction of that. It may have only cost them, let's say, $3 to get the shirt manufactured. Maybe $5 to get it shipped overseas if they had a large bulk item. And again, we're looking at things like utilities, paying the workers at the store, the sales associates, things like that to cover cost. So that $45 shirt is not going to be $45 to manufacture. There's two ways you can go about doing this. The easiest is doing cost times, in parentheses, 100 minus the discount, if it's a discount, or cost times 100 plus the markup. And you'll see both of these down here in the example. So the first example, find the price of an item that usually costs $175 but is on sale for $40. So I'm going to multiply that 100% minus 40% because we don't have to pay for that 40%. If I were to rewrite this, $175 times 60%. And that would give you the final cost of the item. So 175, I know 10% of that is $17.50. If I multiply that 6 times, that's going to be 105. So my final cost will be $105. Now if I took that 40% and multiply it by 175, I get 70, so there's my difference there. So the cost of the item on sale is $105. If you wanted to skip directly to the 60%, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just a way of remembering that you are taking it off the 100%, and the 60% is what is left of what you have to pay. Looking at the second example, if a store purchases a pair of shoes for $20 times 100% and marks them up 75%, how much will the consumer have to pay? So this is going to be $20 times 175%. What this 100 does is it accounts for, you're using distributive property. 20% times 100%, $20 times 100% is $20. And then 75% of 20 is 15. So you're tacking that on. You're doing it all in one step though. So if I multiply 20 times 175, it's going to come up on my calculator, not with a dollar sign, but it's going to come up as 35. So this is a way to do it all in the fewest steps possible. There's other ways to do it, and if you know of another way and it works for you, then by all means do it. But this is probably, of all the ways I've seen, this is probably the most the less step-oriented one, so to speak. So at this time, let's take a look at a couple examples in the book. This is going to be on page 350, and I'm going to start with, go ahead and do 4 through 9. No, scratch that. Let's do 5 through 9. 5 through 9, the odd ones. So go ahead and take a few minutes to do those, and start this again when you're ready. Alright, number 5. The original price is $325. The new is $400. putting that over the original, equals R over 100. 325 minus 400 is 75. Remember, we're doing absolute value, so it's going to be positive, equals R over 100. I cross multiply. 325 times R is 325R. 75 times 100 is 7,500. Divide both sides by 325. And R will equal 23%. Number 7. Okay, the stereo is $300. Let's see, I need to find the sale price of each item to the nearest cent. So, $300 times, and it's 33% off, 33 1/3% off. 100% minus 33 1/3%. That's going to be $300 times 66 2/3%. So I need to find 2/3 of the cost of 300, which is $200. That'll be our sales price. Number 9, we have a shirt for $12. We have a 40% markup. Multiply by 100% because we need to take into account for that $12. 40% markup. So it's going to be $12 times 140%. When I multiply those two numbers together, I get $16.80.